Very good morning to all. So we have already completed unit number 1, that is introduction to database. So how many of you have gone through the PPT of unit number 1? How many of you have gone through the PPT of unit number 1? In unit 1 we seen what do you mean by database management system, what are the advantages of DBMS, what is three-level architecture, what is actual architecture, then what are the different types of users, what are the roles of each users. Everything we have seen in that particular unit. So how many of you have gone through the PPT of that? How many of you have gone through the PPT of it? Is there anyone? બોલો.
નથી તમે અંકિતભાઈને પૂછી લો ને મારું વરસનું કંઈક બતાવી જોઈએ હવે મને હાલતા થઈ જાય છે તો અંકિતભાઈ કીધું મેં તો કોઈક સર્જનને બતાવી છે
હા સારું જાઓ.
મમતાબેને એમ કીધું કે દસ્તુર સાહેબને બતાવી જો
હા વાંધો નહીં જાઓ.
હું આ વાંધો નહીં
જાઓ તો લેક્ચર ચાલુ જ મારો.
તમે વાત કરી દો
Hello. Yes students. So is there any doubt in any of the topic, even if you have gone through that particular topic or not? Anyone is having any doubts in that particular chapter? Any of the topics? Is any topic to be revised? Okay, so if it is no doubt, let's start with the new unit. Or before that, let me just have some very quick question answer sessions. So what are the different types of users in database or in general? Quickly write down the answer. Different types of users. What are the different types of users? Give me quick answers. Yes, anyone? Very good. End users, or we can say naive users, application users, sophisticated users, and database administrator, or we can say application programmer. Right, okay. Or sophisticated, we can call it as specialized users. Okay, then what are the main roles of database administrator? What is the main role of database administrator? Yes, to finalize the storage structure of your database or data and create the schema for your database. This is what the two main tasks of database administrator is. Yes, very good. Now from the user side, which particular component mainly manages all the requests of the user with the database? Which component acts as a middleware from user side, that acts as a middleware for communicating with the database? I am talking about the architecture of DBMS. Which component acts as a middleware to communicate with all the database operations or take all the requests of database operations to the database? Any idea? Talking about the last topic, that is database architecture. Anyone? Any idea? which component from the user side takes all its requests of the user for database operations to the database. There were four components: users, query processors, storage manager, and actual database. So from the user side, there is a query processor which takes all the requests of users and communicates with storage manager, and storage manager actually fetches the data from the database and gives back to the user. So this is the main scenario of the database architecture. That means you have a users dealing with the applications, and there is a query processor which actually takes all the requests of database and its operations from the users and communicates with the storage manager, and storage manager mainly takes all the requests from the query processor, goes to the database, performs all its requests and gets back all the data from the database to the user or the query processor. So students, just go through the database architecture once, right? Okay, so we are going to start with next unit, that is unit number 3. I am skipping unit number 2 right now. We will first see unit number 3 and then we'll go for unit number 2. So let me present my screen and let's start with unit number 3 then. Right. So our unit number 3 is data model or database models. So whenever we are talking about the databases or creating the database for a particular system, then we actually try to represent the complete database in form of some models or in form of some pictures. So that pictorial part will be called as data model or database model. Right, so we are actually displaying our database in form of some pictures or in form of some visual presentations, right? So in this particular chapter we are going to mainly concentrate on this particular topic, that is ER diagram. This is the most important topic for any database models, or we can say any database can be represented in a best way using this particular diagram, right? So we are going to mainly focus on this particular topic. So all these topics are related to this particular topic. So ER diagram is the most important topic in terms of database or data models. So let's start with it. So the database design involves understanding operational and business needs of an organization, modeling the specified requirements and realizing the requirements using a database. So why do we require actually a database design, right? What is the need of database design? So database design mainly allows a user to understand the needs of an organization, to understand the need of an application, to understand the need of a system, right? So once you understand the complete needs or the requirements of a system or an application, then you can actually design your complete database based on that particular needs or requirements. And that is the only reason why this particular thing, understanding the organizational operations or business needs or requirements, is required for database design. You cannot create the database until and unless you have understood the needs or requirements of a application. Let us say, for an example, if I want to create a database for college management system, right? I want to develop a database for college management system, then I cannot directly start with creating the database. I cannot directly start with creation of database? First, I need to understand exactly what is required in the application or in the system. What exactly it is required in the application or a system. Until and unless I know the requirements and the need of a system, I cannot create a database design, or I cannot create a database. I need to understand which modules are required in a system, what will be the main users of the system, what will be the different functionalities that a system requires. So based on all the requirements, I will start creating the database design. So that is why only it has been mentioned here. Database design involves understanding operational and business needs of an organization, modeling specified requirements, and realizing the requirements using a database. So you require the requirements or the needs for a system if you want to create a database design. And whenever you say that the overall database design process has to follow a series of steps, that means you need to follow some particular procedures to create a database or a database design, and that procedure is known as design methodology, and that procedure is known as design methodology. Right? So ultimately, why do we require the design methodology? The main thing is to produce efficient, high quality and minimum cost of database. That means that if we understand a particular requirement of a system and we follow each and every step of creating the particular database, then we can say that our database would be efficient and of a good quality. Right? Now, what do you mean by a good quality or efficient database? Can anyone tell me? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by good quality and efficient database? Can anyone tell me what do you mean by a good quality or efficient database? Any idea? Anyone? What do you mean by a good quality or efficient database? Okay, I've got few answers. Easy accessibility and secure. Okay, data stored in it should be in compact form and can be accessed fast. Okay, other than this, what do you mean by efficient database? What do you mean by efficient database? Not public. Not exactly, dear. Let us assume that I am creating a database for college management system. So what all things I will require? Let us say I want to manage the subjects, I want to manage the faculties, I want to manage students and overall management of a college. So what all things I will require in that database? I want the answers from you. Let us say for college management system, I want to manage faculties, I want to manage student, I want to manage subject, and I want to manage staff, as well as I want to manage overall timetables. So what do you think, what type of data or what different tables I will require? Can you just list down the tables? Anyone? What are the different tables I will require? Yeah, anyone? Yes, anyone? Students? Am I audible properly? Okay. So assume that I am creating a college management system and I want to manage all these things. So what different tables I will require, or what will be the database schema for this? Anyone? Okay, Rahil, list the 5 tables. Okay, Ritesh, list the 4 tables. So mainly I will require faculty table, student table, subject table, and for timetable I will require mapping of faculty, student and subject. So I will have the details of faculty, student and subject in the timetables. Right. So let us assume that I have not taken, or I have not understood the exact requirement of a system, and I am directly creating the database for it. Right, now assume that thing, that I have not understood or I have not discussed the requirements of the system with the organization, and I am directly creating the database for it. So what I am doing is, let us say in faculty I am storing name, I am storing the contact details or contacts, address, email, and etc. things. Likewise, I am storing some of the data in each of the table, and I have created the complete application and I am given back to the organization. Now, after looking at the application, organization asks me that this particular data you have not stored in a particular system. Let us say in faculty details I have not stored the credentials of faculty. Let us assume that I have not stored this credential. I am not managing the credentials of the faculty. So this is what a drawback of a system that has been come out after the system has been developed. That means I have not discussed that particular part, that credentials were required to be stored in the database. So this part I need to again implement in my database, and I again need to modify my complete system. So this is the major drawback. If you are not following the steps, or if you are not discussing the actual need and the requirement of a system, then you cannot create efficient and high quality database, because the credentials were not managed properly. The database would not be of good quality and it was not efficient. So this is what efficient and high quality database means. That means you have understood the complete requirement of the database or a system, and then you have started creating the database for a particular system. Is it clear, guys? What do you mean by efficient and high quality? Efficient and high quality database means you have created a database based on the complete requirement and needs of a system. This is what high quality and efficient database system mean. Am I clear with this, everyone? Any doubts? What do you mean by efficient or high quality database? Okay, so let's continue from the PPT part then. So we said that the overall database design process must follow some steps. That step is, first you need to understand the requirements and the needs of the organization or a system, and those complete process is known as design methodology. And why do we do this? Because we want to produce efficient, high quality and a minimum cost database. Now in large organization, it is the responsibility of database administrator to design an efficient database system. Right? So as I said in the last lecture, that database administrator is the person who is going to manage the complete tasks of database, like creating the schema, creating the storage structure, maintaining the authorization and authentication of the database access, and all these tasks are managed by DBA. So in large organizations, DBA is going to create the complete database design. So he will see what, he will understand the requirements of a system. He will be the person who is going to actually create the particular database design for a system. Right? Clear with this, everyone? Or any doubts? Okay, so let's continue. The next is integrity constraints. So what do you mean by integrity? We already discussed this in first chapter. What do you mean by integrity? What do you mean by integrity constraint or integrity? We already took the example of bank in that particular part. So what do you mean by integrity? Very good, Janvi. So integrity means a type of conditions that has been imposed on a particular database. As I said in the first chapter, that let us say that a particular account in a bank should have minimum 500 as a balance. So that is what the condition that has been imposed on a account, right? So that particular condition is known as integrity, right? So we have mainly 5 different types of integrities in database. So integrity constraints are the set of rules or conditions imposed on a database to maintain the quality of data. So this is what, or this is the reason why we require integrity constraint. It is the set of rules or conditions imposed on a database just to maintain the quality of data, right? So if we put some conditions, we can say that yes, our data is efficient. And integrity constraints ensures that any manipulation on data does not affect the data integrity. So even if I am making any type of transactions on a bank or on my account, let us then the database system will assure that each and every time, even though I am making any type of transactions, my balance will be more than 500, right? If my balance is getting lesser than 500, it will give me a notification or a error message, right? So integrity constraints mainly assures that our database data integrity is maintained. Whatever rules we have imposed on our particular database, it will be managed in an efficient way, even though whatever number of database operations or whatever type of transactions we are making on a particular data. So that is why integrity constraint is required in our database, and it mainly secures the database management or data management. So this is the important part. It is mainly used for data management, right? So in database we have 5 different types of integrity constraints. The first one is check, not null, unique key, primary key and foreign key. So unique key we are not using nowadays, but still it is a part of integrity constraint. So now let's see each of them in deep. So first one is check constraint. So what do you mean by check constraint? This constraint is defined on a column of the table. This constraint is defined on a column of the table. So what do you mean by this? It means that it limits the data values of a variable to a specific set of the values based on the condition. So what do you mean by this? Let us see example here. So assume that I am creating some table. So let us say it is enrollment number, or let us say tr underscore id. Let us say account name. Let us say amount, address, mobile number. So this is what I have created a table for banking system. Assume it. So in this particular amount, I have already put a condition that amount should be greater than 500. So this is what the condition that has been put on a particular column. So this particular column, I have put a condition on this particular column called amount. So if I want to put a condition on a particular column, I have to use check constraint. I have to use check constraint. So here it has been written that check constraint is used to define on a particular column of a table, and it limits the data values of a variables to a specific set of values based on a condition. So it means that I have put this particular condition using check. That means check whether the amount is greater than 500 or not. So it limits the values of this particular column. Let us see if I'm entering 499 here. So it means that this particular value does not satisfy this condition. So this won't be allowed here. It will give you an error message. It will give you an error message. Right? So this is what check constraint is. You are allowed to put a particular condition for a particular type of values on a particular column. Clear with this, guys? What do you mean by check constraint? You are allowed to put a condition on a particular column for some specific types of values. So we have put a type of check here that amount should be the value of the amount whatever we are entering here should be greater than 500. So this is what check constraint is on a amount table. Am I clear with this? Or let us say that I am putting one more constraint on this mobile should start with 9. I have put one more constraint here that whatever mobile number I am trying to enter here, all the mobile numbers should start with 9. If any number I am entering for a mobile number is not starting with 9, that means it is a problem or it does not satisfy the condition that has been implied or imposed on this particular column. So check constraint I have put here that check number starts with 9 or number equals to 9. Something like that I have put a condition on this particular column mobile. And I already put one condition on column amount. So this is what check constraint is. You are allowed to put a condition for getting the specific types of values for that particular column. Clear with this, guys? Or any doubts? Clear Clear with this, guys, or any doubts? Should I repeat this? Anyone? Does it require repetition? Anyone who requires repetition in this? Okay, so let's go for the next one then. Right. So what does this says? The constraint can be applied for a single column or a group of columns. So either you can put this particular check constraint on one column as I shown here. You can put it either on a single column amount, or you can put it on group of columns, that is amount and mobile. So this is what the check constraint is for. What is the example? Example is amount must be greater than 500. So we have said that check whether the amount of this particular column is greater than 500, or we have said that whatever values we are entering here, it should start with 9. So this is what check constraint is. What is the next constraint? The next constraint is not null. Now what do you mean by not null? This constraint ensures that each column of all the rows in the table has some value. That means wherever you put this particular constraint called not null, it means that that particular column cannot have empty values. That particular column cannot have empty values or null values. So let us take the example again here in this particular Excel only. Let us assume that I have said that this particular tr underscore id should be not null. I have written here not null. So what does this mean? It means that this particular column here should have at least some values in this particular column. It means that it should have 1 here or some values here, but it cannot be empty. This particular column value cannot be empty. So not null means the value of a particular column, wherever the not null constraint has been implied, right, the value cannot be empty. This is what not null constraint means. This is what not null constraint mean. Right, so if I keep this empty and write down all other things, let us say and I create the first row and then I start with this. Right, so this particular column value cannot be empty or null. So this is what not null means. Not null assures that if you implied this particular constraint on any of the column of the table, then it makes sure that the value of that particular column will never be empty. The value of that particular column will be never empty. Clear with this? So this is what not null means. Read this statement again. Ensures that the column, each column of the rows in the table has some value. That means on whatever column you have implied this not null, the column value will not be empty. Clear with this, guys? What do you mean by not null? Any doubts in not null? Anyone? Right, so check constraint allows you to put a condition for some types of values on a table, right, and not null allows you to make sure that any column value is not empty. There is some value in the column. Right, clear with this too, everyone? Or any doubts? Okay, so let's go for the next one then. The next one is unique key. So what do you mean by unique key? Unique key ensures that the data in each row for a single or a group of columns is unique or distinct. A column can have null values but cannot be duplicated. So what does this mean? Let us say in this example only, let us take the example of Excel only. Unique key. So let us say I am entering here 1 SDF, this is what the data is, then 2, then again I am trying to enter 1, some data, then some data, let us say some data, and let us say some data. Assume that there is no constraints right now. Right? So now what does this unique key means? Unique key means that it identifies a particular row uniquely. It identifies a particular row uniquely. So you need to impose a unique key on a particular column. So let us say here my tr underscore id is unique key. Tr underscore id is a unique key. So unique, that means that this particular column identifies the complete row uniquely. Identifies the complete row uniquely or distinctly. It means that this particular attribute value, this particular column value determines all other values of the columns or the table. That means if I say that unique ID 1 or tr ID 1 identifies account number, amount, address and mobile of a account, right? So if I have the tr ID, then I can identify account number, account name, amount, address and mobile of the particular account, right? So this is what unique identification means. It means that if you have this particular value, then you can identify or you can determine rest of the values. So this is what unique key means. This is what unique key means. Now what is the problem with the unique key? Unique key states that it cannot have duplicated values. So if I again re-enter 1 here, then this particular row is not allowed. This particular row is not allowed. So here the values cannot repeat or values cannot be duplicated. Values cannot repeat or values cannot be duplicated. So here 1 cannot be allowed. Either it should be other than 1 or 2 or it should be empty. It allows the null values. It allows the null values. If you read this statement again, you can see here, ensures that the data in each row for a single or a group of columns is unique, and a column can have null values but cannot be duplicated, right? A column can have null values but cannot be duplicated. So here we can say that this is again a unique row. Now if I enter here 4 and some data, that is okay. Here it is null, that is allowed. But here if I again enter 2, then it is not allowed because 2 is already available somewhere in the column. 2 is already available here, so this data won't be allowed. So this is what we call it as unique key. If unique key means determining or identifying a particular row uniquely. Clear with this? So this won't be allowed here. You need to either have other than 1, 2 and 4 or you can have null. Let us say I am writing here 3. That is okay. So this is what unique key means. Clear with this, guys? Or any doubts? Or should I repeat again? Okay, Parth, I am repeating again. So what does this unique key means? Unique means distinct or not different than others, right? Different than other. So unique means here whenever you are imposing unique key on a particular column or a group of columns, let us say, right, then it states that whenever you are imposing a unique key on a single column or a group of columns, then that column should have different values. The values in that particular column cannot repeat or cannot be duplicated. Clear with this funda everyone, first of all? Right, so let us say A and D, that is TRID and address, I am imposing unique key. So what does this mean? What does this mean? TRID and address should have the different data. The data or the values cannot be repeated or cannot be duplicated. So let us say I am writing here 1, some name say Raj, the account is 500, I am writing here Rajkot, and some mobile number, I am writing here 2, let us say Ankit, I am writing some of the data, I am writing say Jamnagar, and some mobile number. Again after this, let us say, again I am trying to write down here 1, I am writing, let us say Priyas or whatever the name Priyansh, let us say, then I am writing some data called some numbers, let us say, and I am writing like Baroda and some mobile number. So here it is a unique key. So unique key states that 1 cannot be repeated. So here this value won't be allowed. This value won't be allowed. So either you need to change this value, let us say I am changing it to 3, then this is allowed. And let us say I am trying to enter some more data, let us say Man and some data, and I am trying to write down here Rajkot and some number. So again here Rajkot, here again address is a unique key, so Rajkot cannot be repeated. So this again won't be allowed. But still if I want to enter Rajkot, then I will write it down in a small case. Then the two datas are different, so it will be allowed. So it says that no repetition of the values will be allowed if you imposed a unique key. Now is this clear? I need to change here, let us say Ahmedabad. So it will be allowed. Is there any doubt anyone now in unique key? Right? But still there is one more concept in unique key. It states that if I am trying to write down 1 here, the 1 is not allowed, right? But if you want, you can keep it as empty. You don't want repetition, that's okay, but you can keep it still as a empty, right? So this is what unique key states. Either you can keep it empty or you should have no duplicated data. Is this clear, guys? Or any doubts? Right. So can anyone tell me what is the drawback of unique key then? What will be the drawback of unique key?
सर
Yes.
सर ये थर्ड वाला है जो TRID वो एम्प्टी है, सही है ना?
Yes.
तो फिफ्थ वाला हम कोई डेटा ऐड करते हैं और फिफ्थ में भी TRID एम्प्टी रखेंगे तो कुछ
Like
होगा
this.
नहीं ना?
Like this.
या
Yeah. Still it is able to uniquely identify your row. It is allowing null value, so we cannot do anything in that.
ओके सर.
Yes, Sivanand, that is what we have discussed right now. You can have multiple and TRID is empty. So can anyone tell me what will be the drawback of this particular unique key? Anyone? What can be the drawback of this unique key? Any wild guesses? Anyone? I want the answer from you. We can't identify a row if we have multiple empty TRIDs. Yes, very good. Pranav, duplication is not allowed, is not a drawback, it is an advantage. If you have duplicated data, then it would be very bad thing for you that your database contains many duplicated data. Right? So duplication not allowed is the advantage, not the drawback or disadvantage, right? Okay, so the major drawback of this particular unique key is it is allowing the null values, and a single particular column can have multiple null values. So if you have multiple null values, right, or empty values in a particular column, then you cannot actually determine a particular row uniquely. So that is the main drawback of unique key, and that is why only we are not using unique key anymore. And that is the only reason why we are not using unique key, right? So unique key is not used only because it is allowing null values or empty values. Clear with this? Why we are not using unique key? The reason is it is allowing the null values. That is why we cannot have a unique identification of a row, and that is the only reason we are not using unique key nowadays, right? So now what is the replacement of unique key then? The replacement of unique key is primary key. The replacement of unique key is primary key. So ensures that a column or a group of columns identify a row uniquely, and a column cannot have null values and also cannot be duplicated. So this is what the advantage of primary key is. Whatever was the drawback of unique key has been improved in primary key. What was the drawback? It is allowing the null values. So primary key ensures that it doesn't have any null values, as well as the data is not duplicated. Right? So instead of unique key, now we are using here primary key. We are using primary key, and let us say here we don't have any particular keys. So what does this primary key means? Primary key means that this particular column value cannot have duplicate values, as well as it cannot be empty or null. Clear? What does this primary key mean? The column values or a column on which primary key has been imposed cannot be empty or null. Right? Clear with this, everyone? So here this null cannot be allowed. We need to give some values. So 3, and again if I give here 1 again, so this won't be allowed because it is not allowing any duplicated values. So again I need to change the values here. So this is what the advantage of primary key is. It will not allow any duplicated values. Also it will not allow any null or empty values. Clear with this, guys, everyone? So we are using primary key instead of unique key. So far we have learnt 4 constraints. First is check. That means we are checking a particular column value. Then not null. That means we are ensuring that a column value is not empty or null. Third is unique key, allowing a null values but not the duplicated values, but we are not using nowadays. But instead of that we are using primary key. That is the 4th constraint, ensuring that a column value is not empty, as well as it is not getting duplicated. Clear with this, everyone? The first 4 constraints, or any doubts in any of the constraints? So let's see the last constraint in the list, and that constraint is foreign key. So what do you mean by foreign key? Foreign key is also known as referential integrity constraint. The other name of foreign key is referential integrity constraint. What it does, allows a table to refer a column of the another table with a primary key. Just let us see this example very quickly. I will explain this in the Excel again. What it says, it is allowing a particular column of the other table to refer to some of the values of the other table. One table refers the other table. Let us say here student, S roll, S name and standard, and result is having again S roll, M1, M2, M3 and result. So here S roll is a primary key of the student table, and result table S roll is called the foreign key because it is referring a S roll column of student table. Now just we are stopping this particular presentation and let us come back to this particular table. So let us say I am deleting all this thing, and here I am writing like this: S roll, name, mobile and semester, and let us say I am having some data 1 A, mobile number something and semester as 4. Let us say I am having 2 B, mobile number something and this, and after this I am having one more table. Let us say this table is called student table, and now I am having one more table called result, and result is again having, because I want to display the name of the student along with the result table, right? So I will not store the name again here. What I will store? I will store only the S roll, and then I will store marks 1, marks 2, marks 3 and result, right? So I want to show the complete result as the marks, the result, the semester and the name. So if I want to show this particular result in this way, then I can use the foreign key integrity constraint. What it says, you can refer to a particular table's value from one table. Let us say here S roll is a primary key. S roll is a primary key. So if I want to directly display the complete data, I can refer this particular values directly from this table. So if I am going to, let us say S roll is here foreign key. So what it says, that if you want to display the data using some other data, you can use a foreign key. So if I enter here 1 and if I enter some marks here, say P, so it means that this particular column value 1 refers to this particular column. That means the name of the student is A, mobile number is 5 and semester is 4. So 1 here means it is comparing the data with this particular 1. So it is referring actually the data of this particular table. So foreign key is allowed or is being used to refer a particular value of other table, right? So let us say if I am trying to write down here 3 and some data and some data and some data, and let us say result is fail, but 3 is not available in the first table, this table, right? So this cannot be entered. If you are using a foreign key, then this 3 cannot be entered here, because foreign key is referring the values of primary key, and primary key doesn't have a value 3 in it. So this data won't be allowed. This data won't be allowed. So it directly refers the values of the other table from one table. Just try to remember this thing. I will clear this complete part in your practical session in practical 3. So just try to remember this, that foreign key refers to a primary key column of another table, right? So foreign key S roll refers to the primary key S roll of student table. Just try to refer this and remember this right now. Okay, so let's do one thing. Let's end this lecture here. We will discuss more about foreign key in the next lecture, that is on next Monday, right? So we are ending this lecture here, students.